Hello everyone, welcome to the 14th lecture of the course. In the previous lecture, we talked about the higher activities of the self and we discussed the meaning of contemplation, understanding and realization. We saw that contemplation is to see the participation in the larger order. Understanding is to see the innateness of all the four orders in nature. And realization is to see the submergence of nature in space. We also saw that these activities, the higher level activities of block B1 guide the lower level activities of block B2. And now in this lecture, we are going to see how they guide. So we are discussing the activities of the self and we'll now see how the higher activities guide the lower activities. So higher activities guiding the desire, that is the imaging part. Now these higher activities essentially to be able to see the coexistence, harmony and relationship, how they guide the desire. And desire, if you remember, is the activity of imaging and contemplation. The activity of contemplation at the level of desire is a part of block B1. So what we understand through higher activities, that is coexistence, harmony and relationship, that guide our desire, that is imaging. That is our desire is to live in accordance with coexistence, harmony and relationship. Now with activity of contemplation being activated, we are able to see the relationship. With the activity of understanding activated, we are able to see the harmony. And with realization, we are able to see the coexistence. And now this is going to guide the lower level activities. And to begin with, it will start with the activity of imaging at the level of desire. So the desire will now transform into living with coexistence, harmony, and relationship. Earlier, the desire and the imaging part there was colored by preconditionings or by the sensation that the self gets from the body. But now it is going to get in accordance with the higher level activities in completeness. So for example, to live with values in human-human relationship becomes our desire. Now, earlier it may be the case that when it came to human-human relationship, so here you can explore within yourself whether you'd like to have this kind of state. Presently, you can see that imaging is preconditioned through various assumptions which we have nurtured in us without knowing. But now that the imaging is guided by right understanding, is guided by the understanding of relationship, harmony, and coexistence, the preconditionings are going to get evaluated. So if there are some preconditioning which was in line with these three, it will get in place, it will get settled. And if there are some preconditioning which was not in line with this, will get evaluated and will get replaced by this understanding. Now, the imaging would be to live a life of happiness in continuity, to have justice in human-human relationship, to ensure fulfillment with the rest of nature, and things like that. Now, how does higher level activity guide the thought, that is analyzing and comparing? So when we have understanding of coexistence, harmony, and relationship, now every time the desire is to fulfill the relationship, the desire is to ensure mutual happiness in the relationship and not to oppose the other, not to make the other unhappy, not to get in conflict with the other, not to take revenge from the other. So you can see this kind of transformation in your imaging with the higher level activities activated. So this is what happens at the level of desire. And this is something that you can explore and verify for yourself. Now, earlier it may be the case that you developed opposition in yourself with the other human being, or you thought of, or you had a desire to exploit others, you had a desire to exploit the rest of nature. But now, when you are able to see the relationship clearly, you are able to see the harmony clearly, you are able to see coexistence clearly, we are able to see coexistence clearly. So this gets purified. The imaging gets purified. The imaging gets now completely guided by right understanding. And there is no longer enslavement of preconditionings at the level of desire. Try to observe within yourself. To whatever extent you have been able to observe, you can see this kind of transformation at the level of desire. For example, earlier you might have been thinking of accumulation of physical facilities and that also being unlimited. But now when you are able to see the self and the body and their coexistence clearly, the desire for accumulation gets transformed. Now the desire is for fulfilling the needs of the body in limited quantity, and also to fulfill the needs of the self, that is continuity of happiness through right understanding, right feeling. So you can see a clear transformation at the level of desire when the higher level activities are activated. Now, how do the higher level activities guide the thought? That is the activity of analyzing and comparing. This is something that we are going to observe now. Now, earlier, it was the case when the higher level activities were not activated. So if you look at the activity of analyzing and comparing, so there are three sources. One was preconditioning, the other was sensation, and the third was natural acceptance. Now we can discuss how the higher level activities guide the thought, and thought essentially means analyzing and comparing. So unless the higher level activities are activated, the lower level activities are enslaved by preconditioning and sensation, and sometimes guided by natural acceptance. Now, if you see here, the expectation that is selecting and testing is essentially to get the form of a unit, and the content of thought is the property, that is the influence of, that is the effect of one unit on another unit. So we analyze the property part, and we get the taste of the form of a unit through senses, through the five sense organs. And this is unguided. This is unguided because activities at the level of 1 and 2 are not activated, they are dormant. Sometimes we get these activities the guidance of natural acceptance, but largely they are enslaved by preconditioning and sensation, and that's why they are called as partantra. And in this state, if you see the lower level activities, the analyzing and comparing, are unguided, and that is to say that under the influence of preconditioning sensation, and they are only able to have the content as form and property of a unit. Here, the activity of comparing has three bases. One is appealing to senses, the second is conducive to health, and the third is whether the choice is profitable or not. So these are three bases of comparing at the level of thought when the thought is unguided. Now, if something is appealing to the senses, we may prefer it. If something is conducive to health and largely for consumption, we may go for it. And if something is profitable in exchange, we may again go for it. So these are the three bases. In Hindi, you can call it as Priya, Hit, and Lav. So Priya is basically appearing to senses. Hit is conducive to health, or so to say consumption. And Lav is profitable. That is, in exchange, we are able to get profit out of exchange. Now, when this is unguided, then the basis for comparing, that is appealing to senses, may lead to obsession for sensation. So this may lead to some obsession. And what could be the obsession? It could be obsession to be happy through sensation through these five sense organs: sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. Now, how does it look like? So if you assume that the sound is going to make me happy and the higher level activities are not activated, then it may result in this kind of obsession. And you can see today in the society, there are so many industries which are working for obsession for sensation, to get favorable sound to make oneself happy, to get favorable touch to make oneself happy, to get favorable sight to make oneself happy, or to get a favorable taste through tongue. So many industries are working on that, so that you are able to get favorable taste through tongue. Similarly, for smell, we can see how costly a perfume may be. And what does a perfume do for you? It only gives you a favorable smell. But if you become obsessed with that particular kind of smell, then you may go for purchasing a very costly perfume, investing a lot of wealth there. So this is one kind of uh, obsession. The second kind of obsession is obsession for indulgence. So if you try to consume something for happiness and you want happiness in continuity, then that tendency to consume as much as possible will lead to obsession. For example, if one feels that By having a number of houses, one is going to be happy. By owning a lot of property, one is going to be happy. Then one may go for indulgence, one may go for accumulation, and this kind of tendency will be seen. So you'll see that when the guidance is not available from the higher level activities, the thought gets into this kind of analysis and comparing. So we may compare on the basis of senses, we may compare on the basis of whether it is conducive to health or not, and whether it is profitable or not. And if these are not guided, they may lead into obsession. So there could be obsession for sensation. And that essentially means one may be obsessed to ensure happiness through sensation without ever being able to know how much is required. So you can see that in the society today, there's so much obsession for sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. For example, one may be obsessed with a particular kind of music, and one may feel that this favorable sound of the music is going to make oneself happy in continuity, and one may be obsessed with that. Similarly, touch, to get any soft touch, one may try to accumulate, one may try to indulge into various things. Similarly, some kind of form, some kind of sight could be another kind of obsession. Now, for taste from the tongue, one may go for food for taste and assume that this particular taste is going to make oneself happy. And this may have no limits. One may keep on consuming something for the sake of taste. And similarly, with the smell, you can see in the market so many commodities are available to give you favorable smell. And one may invest a lot of money, lot of wealth to get favorable smell from some perfume or some physical facility. Similarly, the second basis is conducive to health, or so to say consumption. So if one feels that by consuming one is going to be happy, one may go on consuming as much as possible. We can see examples from the society where people have accumulated. We can see examples from society where there is a lot of consumption, there is a lot of indulgence. And similarly, in our exchange, one may go for profit making as much as possible without ever being able to know how much profit is required. So there could be obsession for accumulation, obsession for profit. So these kinds of obsessions are very clearly visible in the society today. You can verify yourself, and you can see how much of your thought is obsessed by these three bases: appealing to senses, conducive to health, and whether it is profitable or not. In Hindi, we'll call it as Priya, Hit and Love. So how much of our thought is obsessed with Priya, Hit and Love? Now, what is the motivation for imagination here? So it could be either a preconditioning sensation or natural acceptance. Now, preconditioning is assuming without knowing, and it depends on something or someone outside, and it keeps changing, not sure whether it leads to harmony or contradiction. So one may be preconditioned to think in multiple ways. Now, the second source is sensation, some taste of sound, touch, sight, taste, or smell. You'll see that a particular sequence applies whenever you go for ensuring happiness through sensation. Initially, it may appear tasty and necessary. So, for example, if one is fond of a particular kind of sweet and one is feeling hungry, so this is necessary to consume so that the hunger is satisfied, and it is tasty also. You are getting a particular kind of taste from that sweet. But if you go on consuming, after some time the stomach gets full, and then it is no longer necessary. It becomes unnecessary, though you still get the taste from that sweet. Does it happen with you? A particular kind of chocolate, particular kind of dish, particular kind of sweet, try to consume this and then see whether this sequence applies to you or not. Now, if you still keep on consuming, after some time it becomes tasteless. It was unnecessary and now it becomes tasteless. The same sweet that you were fond of now will lose that taste in that sweet, and very soon it becomes intolerable. And you will see that whenever we try to ensure happiness through sensation, this particular sequence does apply. So try to observe this sequence for yourself. The third basis could be natural acceptance, and that means you'll see that if your desire or thought is coming from natural acceptance, then there will be assurance that yes, this is acceptable to me naturally. If I fulfill this, I am going to be happy. And after ensuring that, you feel satisfied, you feel that your desire has been fulfilled. And you'll see that the same thing applies to every human being. Whatever is fulfilling to you at the level of natural acceptance is fulfilling to the other also. For example, the feeling of trust, it is fulfilling to everyone. The feeling of respect, it is fulfilling to everyone. So you can see that this feeling of trust or respect is naturally acceptable to us and it is fulfilling to everyone. So whenever you are consuming some physical facility, then also you can see whether you are consuming this on the basis of some preconditioning or sensation or natural acceptance. So you can verify here for yourself by taking several examples. So when you go for sensation for happiness, then you can see that there is a physical object. When you go for sensation for happiness, you can see that there is a physical object outside which makes contact with the body, and then there is sensation in the body. For example, there is some music. Okay, it is coming from some physical object. The music reaches your ears, so you get the contact with the body. The sound gets contact with the body, and then there is sensation in the body, and this sensation is tested by the self. If the taste is favorable, one may feel happy, but we'll see that this happiness is temporary. If the taste is unfavorable, one may feel unhappy, and again it is temporary. Similarly with touch. Okay, so one may go for very soft things to touch, okay, or some favorable touch for the body, and one may try to feel happy through that, but you can see that very soon you are able to lose that taste. You are not able to ensure happiness in continuity. So whatever you can derive through touch is going to be temporary. Whatever you can derive from this sensation of form, some look, some shape, some size, it is again going to be temporary. And similarly with taste and smell. So observe this, and we'll see that this kind of sequence will apply. You can take so many examples. Okay, one may be fond of a particular kind of dish, and when one goes for consuming that dish, you'll see that after some time it becomes intolerable. One may be fond of a particular kind of cloth, but if you keep on putting on that cloth every time to get happiness, it becomes intolerable. So sensation can be a source of temporary happiness, that is excitement, but it cannot be a source of continuous happiness. You can see that happiness essentially is to be in harmony, and to have continuity of happiness, one has to ensure harmony in continuity, and that is only possible by contemplation, understanding, and realization. So what is the role of sensation, or what could be the right utilization of sensation? So one is to keep the body in good health by nurturing protection of the body, and the second thing is to exchange right understanding and right feeling through education sanskar. So when I am conducting this lecture, you'll see that this is a part of education sanskar, and I'm trying to exchange right understanding, right feeling with you. And for that, we are of course utilizing the sensation. You are hearing my voice, you are able to see the slide, so you are able to have the sight of slide, you are able to have the sound of my voice, and through that you are able to ensure right understanding, right feeling in you. So this is one kind of utilization of sensation, one role for sensation. And another is to keep the body in good health by nurturing the body, by protecting body. So what is the role of sensation? So you'll see that the role of sensation is for health of the body and fulfillment of the purpose of the self, and that is in this manner: to keep the body in good health by nurturing the body, by ensuring protection of the body, and secondly, to exchange right understanding and right feeling. So when I am consuming something, say food, then the taste of the food lets me know whether the food is conducive to health or not. If the food is rotten, I'll get one kind of taste. If the food is not rotten, fresh, I'll get another kind of taste. So through taste also, I can say whether this food is conducive to health or not, isn't it? Similarly, we can find it out through smell also. If the food is rotten, we'll get one kind of smell. If the food is fresh, we'll get another kind of smell. So that is one role of the sensation. And the second is to exchange right understanding and right feeling through education sanskar. So presently also, when I am conducting this lecture, I am utilizing my sensation. I am looking at the slides, which are in different colors. And I'm also reading the fonts. It is again a sensation. So I'm getting the sensation from this slide, and I am sharing this with you. You are hearing my voice. and we are getting the meaning of what is written on the slide. And in this way, we are utilizing the sensation for right understanding and right feeling. Now, if you look at the role of sensation in animal, so we'll see that in the animal, there is no potential to ensure right understanding, right feeling, and thus the sensation is naturally restrained for health. So an animal will never consume for indulgence. An animal will never try to ensure happiness through sensation. It is naturally restrained. But if you look at the case of human being, one can make right utilization of sensation only with right understanding. If the right understanding is not there, then one may go into indulgence without ever being able to know whether it is going to ensure happiness in continuity or not. So if you look at the right utilization of the body being an instrument of the self, so there are three ways to rightly utilize it. It is working as an instrument for communication. So presently also I'm communicating with you and the body is working as an instrument. And in this part, the sensation is playing a very prominent role. Now, if you look at the right utilization of body being an instrument of the self, so it is as an instrument for communication. Now, presently also I'm communicating with you and utilizing the body in the process as an instrument for labor to obtain the necessary physical facility for the body. So through body only, we are able to work on the rest of nature. And from the nature, we are able to get the physical facility, which is meant for nurturing the body, for protecting the body, and for rightly utilizing the body. And as an instrument for continuity of human tradition, that is to generate the new body. So to generate the new body, human body is used for procreation, and then the human order continues generation by generation. So these are the three right utilizations of body, which is an instrument of the self. I hope you are able to see this. So try to see all this for yourself. What is the role of sensation for you? Take some example. Let's say the sensation of smell. So what is the right utilization of sensation of smell for you? How it helps you to keep the body in good health? How it helps you exchange right understanding and right feeling? Does it help or not? Similarly, you can look for the role of sensation in animal. You can look for the role of sensation in human being. I can also look for the right utilization of the body for a human being. Going further and observing the activity of analyzing and comparing. And if you look at the basis of higher activities here, so with the right understanding ensured, that is the realization of coexistence ensured, with the understanding of harmony ensured, with the contemplation of relationship ensured, the three lower bases of analyzing and comparing get guided. With realization of coexistence, there is authentication of coexistence, that is submergence of nature in space, that is mutual fulfillment. With the understanding of harmony, there is the understanding to ensure harmony, that is mutual enrichment in the human nature relationship. And with the contemplation of relationship, there is a feeling of living in relationship of mutual fulfillment, ensuring justice in human-human relationship. And now this competence, this right understanding guides the thought, and thus the lower level activities are guided. So these three bases of comparing in the self now get guided by the basis of coexistence, harmony, and relationship. So they get transformed. Earlier, this basis for appealing to senses was leading to indulgence, but now it is meant for nurturing protection of the body and to facilitate the exchange of right understanding and right feeling. This basis for conducive to health now gets guided, and it is in terms of ensuring health of the body. And this basis for being profitable is now leading to right utilization of the physical facility, isn't it? So through sensation, we are able to nurture and protect the body rightly, and also we are able to facilitate the education part, the exchange of right understanding, right feeling. Earlier, this basis for comparing, which was meant for conducive to health, now gets guided and gets transformed in terms of ensuring health of the body. And similarly, the basis for profit making now gets transformed in terms of right utilization of the physical facility. So this is something that we had discussed earlier. So there is realization of coexistence, there is understanding of innateness, there is contemplation of natural characteristic. Here we have the thought of property, and we have the expectation of form. So we are able to test the form, analyze the property, contemplate the natural characteristic, understand the innateness, and realize the coexistence. So we talked about the various bases. So earlier also we are mentioning that coexistence, harmony, and justice guide the senses, health, and profit. Justice is similar to relationship. So this is what we have discussed right now. Now we can further study the transformation of basis of comparing. So with realization, understanding, and contemplation, so you can further study the transformation of the basis of comparing. So with realization, understanding, and contemplation, the other three bases of comparing, that is appealing to senses, conducive to health, and profit, get transformed as follows. The role of sensation or right utilization of the sensation now is in terms of keeping the body in good health by nurturing the body, protecting the body, and in terms of exchange of right understanding and right feeling through education, sanskar. If you look at the right utilization of body, it is in terms of these three purposes: as an instrument for communication, as an instrument for labor to obtain the necessary physical facility for the body, as an instrument for continuity of human tradition, generating the new body. And the role of physical facility or right utilization of physical facility while we are working for acquiring profit is for nurturing and protection of the body and for exchanging right understanding and right feeling through education, sanskar, and other aspects of social system. Now let us understand the third thing. So the physical facility part, when we are working on the rest of nature and acquiring physical facility, and while we are exchanging, we are trying to work for profit. So if you look at the transformation of basis for comparing, so with realization, understanding, and contemplation, the other three bases of comparing, that is appealing to senses, conducive to health, and profit, get transformed, and it gets done in this manner. So as we discussed earlier, now the role of sensation is in two ways. One is to ensure the health of the body. It is in terms of ensuring good health of the body by ensuring right nurturing, right protection of the body. And secondly, it is to exchange right understanding and right feeling through education, sanskar, something that I discussed earlier. If you look at the role of body, it is in three ways: as an instrument for communication, as an instrument for labor. With the body only, we are able to do labor on the rest of nature and produce physical facilities which fulfill the needs of the body, and then the body keeps on working as an instrument of the self. And thirdly, for procreation, for continuity of human tradition by generating a new body. If you look at the role of physical facility, so what would be the right utilization of physical facility? So again, one thing is for nurturing and protection of the body. And secondly, we talk about right utilization of the body. It is in terms of exchanging right understanding and right feeling through education, sanskar. And when you go to do this, then you also participate in various systems of the society. So in these two manners, we are able to. So if you look at the basis for analyzing and comparing with right understanding. So when the right understanding is ensured, there is authentication of coexistence, that is the submergence of nature and space. There is authentication of harmony, that is the human nature relationship, the mutual enrichment in terms of mutual prosperity. And then there is authentication of relationship, that is human-human relationship, that is mutual fulfillment, ensuring mutual happiness. So there is authentication of contemplation, understanding, and realization in the self, and it gets done in this manner. So now these activities guide the lower activities. So for identification of physical facility, that is for nurturing of the body, protection of the body, and for behavior or work and sharing the knowledge. So that gets authenticated. Okay. And the authentication of the higher level activities is by guiding the lower level activities. So these three bases of comparing, like appealing to senses, conducive to health, and in terms of being profitable or not, that gets transformed. So through senses, we are able to make out what is meant, what is conducive for. Next, this basis of comparing of being conducive to health gets transformed into self-regulation. So now you have the clarity about the program for self-regulation, and you are able to utilize the body for ensuring right understanding, right feeling in the self. as well as you are able to authenticate it in your living, your behavior, work, and participation in the larger order. Similarly, the basis of comparing for profit gets transformed into working for prosperity. So now you are able to make out how much is required in terms of physical facility to fulfill the needs of the body. So no longer you have the comparing for profit maximization or for accumulation, but rather it is in terms of ensuring prosperity for yourself. And it also reflects in your behavior, work with the other, because you are able to work for prosperity of others also, and thus it is conducive to societal order. So this is the way your basis of comparing gets transformed. So now the comparing is transformed in this manner. Coexistence, harmony, and justice now guide the senses, health, and profit. Now can study how the higher activities guide the expectation, that is selecting and testing. So when the expectation is unguided, then the selecting and testing is meant for sensation. And then the sensation is assumed to be the source of happiness through sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. So we are talking about knowledge of human being. And we are talking about the basis of selection and testing. So when expectation is unguided, that is, it is under the influence of preconditioning and sensation, then the selecting and testing is sensation based. And then whatever we select is assumed to be the source of happiness. So whatever we select, it is based on sensation, assuming that the sensation is going to ensure happiness. And we are not able to make out that if it is going to be temporary, then what could be the source of continuity of happiness. So through sound, touch, sight, taste, or smell, we try to ensure happiness. And this is the state of being unguided, something that we discussed earlier. So you can verify this for yourself, whether presently the selecting and testing that you do, whether it is guided or unguided. So for example, you get the smell of some dish and you suddenly select that you have to go for that dish. Now, whether that dish is going to ensure health of the body or not is not very sure, but still you may go for it. Or you may go for a very loud music, assuming that it's going to ensure happiness for you. But whether this is going to continue or it is going to, but when the right understanding is ensured, then the sensation based selecting and testing is guided by goal based, value based selecting and testing. So goal would mean that we are able to see the human goal. Now with contemplation, understanding and realization, we are able to see the participation in the larger order. We are able to see the meaning of harmony. We are able to see the whole existence as coexistence, and then we get the clarity of human goal. With that, the selecting and testing on the basis of values is also ensured. We are able to contemplate upon the values, and on that basis, the testing and selecting gets based on values, and these two now guide the sensation. So for example, earlier we might be selecting certain things without being aware whether it is going to ensure health of the body or not. But now we are able to ensure the health of the body through proper utilization of the sensation, and also for sharing our feelings. For example, when I am talking to you, I am marking these lines, and that has a particular sensation. So by underlying these words, what I intend to do is to draw your attention to these particular words. And here the sensation is playing a huge role in drawing your attention to the meaning of these words, isn't it? So how it is being utilized? It is being utilized for sharing the right understanding and right feeling. Now, if the values are ensured, if the understanding of human goal is ensured, then the sensation is going to be rightly utilized. The same thing is mentioned here, that earlier it was unguided, now it is guided through goal and value. So there are three kinds of testing: goal based, value based, and sensation based. So earlier it was unguided, and then there was a tendency to ensure happiness, or to fetch happiness rather, through sensation. But now that gets definite, that gets organized with the clarity of the goal and values. So this is the way the transformation takes place. at the level of expectation. So goal and value based selecting and testing, that is on the basis of coexistence, harmony and relationship. This can be mentioned here that these two can be seen as equivalent to being these two. So goal based is essentially equivalent to being able to see the coexistence realization. So goal based is essentially to be able to see the coexistence and harmony. Now we are able to. So we'll further elaborate what goal based and value based expectation does mean. So it can be mentioned here that these two can be seen as equivalent to the following. So goal based would mean that I'm able to realize the coexistence, I'm able to understand the harmony. Now that gets authenticated. So with realization, with the self-awakening, the expectation gets definite. With understanding of harmony, I'm able to see the human goal rightly, and that gets authenticated in my expectation also. So whenever I select any program for me, any program in my relationship for my participation, then I'm always able to see that this is in line with the human goal, isn't it? Similarly, when I'm able to contemplate upon the values, so I'm able to see the relationship, and then the understanding of values, and then the contemplation of values guides my selection every time. So every time when I go to participate in relationship, it is in terms of ensuring the values, it is in terms of ensuring mutual happiness, it is in terms of ensuring justice. So this is the way our higher level activities guide the lower level activities. So we discussed about the activities of thought earlier, and then we discussed about the activity of expectation. So this is the way the lower level activities get guided by the higher level activities. So now if you look at the basis of selection, so selecting on the basis of human goal based testing. So one is awakening in the self, that is harmony in the self, leading to happiness, peace, satisfaction, bliss in the self, and that will be based on comparing on the basis of coexistence. And in terms of harmony with the entire existence, so participation in larger order leading to, first of all, right understanding and resolution, that is right feeling and right thought in the self. Secondly, prosperity in every family. Thirdly, fearlessness, that is trust in the society. And fourthly, for coexistence in the existence based on comparing on the basis of harmony. So when we have the human goal based testing, then what we come to realize, understand and contemplate in the block B1 gets authenticated in block B2 in this way. And further, at the basis of selection now, when the right understanding is ensured. So selecting on the basis of human goal based testing would mean that there is awakening in the self in block B1, and there's understanding of harmony. So harmony in the self is ensured, leading to happiness, peace, satisfaction, bliss in the self, and that is based on comparing on the basis of coexistence. There's also harmony with entire nature. So there's clarity about participation in the larger order, leading to right understanding and resolution, that is right feeling and right thought in the self, prosperity in every family, fearlessness, that is trust in the society, and coexistence in the existence, and that is based on comparing on the basis of harmony. So these two being ensured in the upper block B1 guide the lower block. So they is selecting on the basis of human value, that is feeling based testing, and it is also on the basis of justice in behavior with human being, that is based on comparing on the basis of justice. And with this, the selecting on the basis of sensation based testing gets guided in terms of identification of physical facility, that is for nurturing of the body, for protection of the body. So essentially, if you see now, the sensation gets rightly utilized. So sensation is not something bad in itself, something wrong in itself. We do have sensation coming from the body. It's only that we get enslaved when we try to ensure happiness through sensation. It's only that we get enslaved when we try to ensure happiness through sensation. But when we are able to ensure the right utilization of sensation, then it becomes a source of happiness. And we are also able to identify the physical facility rightly for ensuring health of the body in terms of nurturing and protection of the body, also in terms of exchanging right understanding and right feeling. So this kind of transformation is visible in the self at the level of expectation with right understanding ensured. So this is something mentioned here, that now the sensation is goal and value based. So this kind of transformation is there in testing with the right understanding ensured. Now you can see how the sensation which was unguided earlier is now guided by goal and value. So there is awakening of harmony. So there is awakening in the self. There is harmony in the self. There is contemplation of value, that is a relationship in the self. And with this, the sensation from sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell gets rightly utilized, gets properly guided. So now you can see, if you look at this particular arrow, the upper block is guiding the lower block activities. And this is the transformation that is desirable in the self. This is the transformation that we are working for. We are already active in the lower domain in block B2, but once this upper block B1 gets activated, they get self-organized, they get in order, they get in harmony, they get properly guided. So in essence, the higher level activities observe the lower level activities, they evaluate the lower level activities, and they inspire the lower level activities. So observing would mean that I'm able to be aware of what is going on in my imagination when the higher level activities are awakened. Also, I'm able to evaluate the activities in the lower level. Also, I'm able to evaluate the lower level activities, whatever is going on in my desire, in my thought, in my expectation. And I'm also able to inspire the lower level activities in terms of relationship, harmony, and coexistence. So this kind of transformation does take place when the higher level activities are activated. So you need to see whether this kind of transformation is taking place in you. So you'll find that as you enter into the process of awakening to the higher level activities, your observation of the lower level activities gets sharper, your evaluation gets better, and you feel more inspired to work for harmony, for order, to work for universal human order, to work for human tradition. This kind of transformation starts taking place in you. And then you feel happier, you feel more peaceful, you feel more satisfied. And this way, so something that we discussed earlier, on one end, we are working for realization within. On the other end, we are able to express outside in terms of universal human order and human tradition. So in this lecture, we discussed how desire, thought, and expectation get guided by contemplation of relationship, understanding of harmony, and realization of coexistence. We saw how the imaging gets guided with right understanding, how the analyzing and comparing gets guided with right understanding, and how the selecting and testing gets guided with right understanding. So the more we are able to work for developing the activity in the upper block B1, the lower level activities get in order, get properly guided, and that reflects in our behavior, in our work, in our participation. And gradually, we are able to participate in terms of undivided human society and universal human order that gets expressed, and also goes into human tradition, generation by generation. And we are able to ensure happiness, peace, satisfaction, and bliss. So I had explained about these words earlier. Let me recap. So bliss is the state when we are able to understand the harmony of all the four orders in completeness. Satisfaction is when we are able to contemplate the participation in the larger order. And with that, our desires get definite. This definiteness of desires is called as satisfaction. When the comparing is properly guided with the higher level activities, then there is no more turmoil in the thought, no more conflict, contradiction in the thought, and we are at peace with oneself. Similarly, when the testing gets properly guided, then we test happiness every time. This testing is no longer dictated by any kind of sensation of preconditioning, but rather it is guided by goal and value. So we are able to see happiness within. So when we say continuity of happiness, these all four are included in continuity of happiness: bliss, satisfaction, peace, and happiness. So we saw how the higher level activities guide the lower level activities, and how the transformation does take place in the self, and how the transformation reflects it. So you need to study your desires over a day and find out what percentage of your desires are coming from preconditioning, sensation, and natural acceptance. This is something that you had done earlier with a better understanding of how our imagination gets dictated by preconditioning or sensation, and how it gets self-organized when the source is through natural acceptance. You can study your thought over a day and find out what percentage of your thought is based on coexistence, harmony, relationship, sensation, and preconditioning. This is something doable. Okay, so To begin with, they may not be guiding your thought, but gradually when you enter into the process of self-exploration and you are able to activate the higher level activities, this percentage goes up and the dependence on sensation for happiness comes down and the preconditionings get evaluated, get done away with, and they get transformed into the right kind of desire. The assuming gets guided by knowing. And the third question is investigate your living and see whether it is centered around the activities of selecting or testing, analyzing, comparing, imaging, contemplation, determination, understanding, or authentication or realization. So you have to see at what level you are operating more. So if the self is operating more at the level of selecting and testing, we'll see that not much analysis is also done. You come to get some sensation from the outside world and you select it for the sake of happiness. So something like a favorable dish comes to you and you select it for happiness. A favorable look of a car comes to you and then you select it for happiness. Some favorable smell comes to you and you select it for happiness. If the imagination is centered around selecting and testing, if it is centered around analyzing and comparing, then you think a lot. You try to analyze various situations that may arise, look into the property of any unit, and then try to make out your right way to live. But again, it is limited to your analyzing and comparing. When you start operating at the level of imaging and contemplation, and if contemplation gets activated, then your imaging gets definite. Even though the contemplation is not activated, the imaging is there, but it is colored by your preconditionings. But now when the contemplation is activated, the color of preconditioning starts coming down, the dictation of preconditioning starts coming down, and that gets more in order with relationship, harmony, and coexistence. If it is centered around understanding and determination, then you have understanding of the harmony in all the four orders. And when it is centered on realization, then I'll say that the transformation gets complete. You are able to be a pure self, completely guided by realization of submergence of nature in space. So I'll say that when you start with, when you start observing, you may not be able to see that your imagination or your living is centered around determination, understanding, or authentication or realization. It may be somewhere here, it may be somewhere around here, or at the most here. That is something that you have to make out for yourself. So this is the assignment for you based on this lecture. So in today's lecture, we saw how the higher level activities guide the lower level activities, how the imaging gets transformed, how the analyzing and comparing gets transformed, how the selecting and testing gets transformed. And this transformation is something which is desirable for every self. And essentially, we are working for this kind of transformation. So in the previous lecture, we had talked about the awakening to higher level activities, that is activities of contemplation, understanding, and realization. And in this lecture, we saw how they guide the lower level activities. So this was all for the lecture today. Thank you.